Hello everybody, it is Saturday, April the 5th, 2014, and that means it is International Tabletop Day. And unfortunately I wasn't able to get anything arranged, but in the spirit of the day, I wanted to go over a wicked game here. And it's this, Pixel Tactics. Now this is the revised edition of Pixel Tactics that comes in level 99's mini game library, which you can see right here. You can get all these different games. Some of them are good. Actually, I'd say a good portion of them are good, and there's maybe one that's not so great, but had a chance to go over this game with a buddy of mine, and it was really cool, and definitely something that I think that gamers might appreciate just because of the aesthetics. And I apologize because there's going to be a lot of text on the cards that you're about to see. But as you can see, my camera doesn't really do text very well, or small text, so yeah, I will read out the cards to you. So this game comes from Level 99 Games, and like I said, this is a second edition. There's actually already a sequel, Pixel Tactics 2, and you can see it's a significantly larger box. Even though it's the same amount of cards, there's a playmat in there, but we don't really need it to do this. But what it is, it's a game that is, well, it's a tactical card game, and that's pretty much all it is. And the overall theme is you have these pixelated heroes doing battle. And again, it comes from level 99, and it's all set in this world that they have, this kind of universe called Indines or Indines. I like to call it Indines. And one of their major games is this one here, which I actually just recently got in the mail. That's why it's still plastic. But this is a Battlecon Devastation of Indines. And this particular game simulates Street Fighter, if you will, or any other 2D fighting game. And it's got really cool mechanics in there. And you can see there's a nice Leafs logo reflected there. These are also cards from Pixel Tactics. These are your turn marker cards, which is kind of good. So you have the first player, second player. But what's really good is on the back, you have a list of all the available actions that you can take, and that's very handy. But and generally, when you're playing the game, you'll move these to mark what wave you're on, and that'll make sense when I explain the game. But for now, I'm not going to really use them because I don't really need them. But we'll put them aside. And the game also comes with 2 blank cards that you can use to create your own characters. But you know what? I just can't. I can't do that. Like, I'm one of those guys that I can't mark up cards. So the game is 50 cards, and that's all it is. I didn't bring out my damage markers, which I probably should have done, but oh well. And you can see there's 2 decks, 25 cards each, and of course if you play with the sequel, Pixel Tactics 2, you can integrate that and make everything a 50 card deck, and very soon there will be a Pixel Tactics 3, which I think completes out the whole thing. So, basically the game begins, everyone draws 5 cards, so we'll do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is hard with one hand, and that's from the panda deck. You can see these nice cute little pixely pandas. And then from the penguin deck, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're gonna, just because we're a left to right kind of person, we're gonna have the panda player go first. And essentially what you're doing here, so these cards are actually really cool. There's a lot of information in there, and I apologize because it's hard to fan this out with one hand. But you can see these are all different heroes. You have a scientist, a mascot, doppelganger, Templar, summoner. But the more important thing is if you flip these upside down, oh, so hard to do with one hand. Damn it, I'm going to crease these. There are also heroes for each of these. Right, so you've got Lysandra McCann, Eligor Larrington, Sagacides, and all this kind of stuff. Oh, look, one of them is actually a panda. You can actually play a panda. So, at the beginning of your turn, I'm just going to spread these out here, if you want. you're going to pick a hero, so not a hero, your leader. So if you flip it over so that the medal is up on top, that's going to be your leader. And you also know, just because all these boxes are going to be upside down. And each type of leader, or each leader I should say, has a different ability. So for example, this one says, and I know you can't read it, is recruiting is a free action for you, which is great because that means you can basically play more cards than you wish, or than you're normally allowed to. This one, Sagaceres, who is the doppelganger leader, it says this leader has the same leader ability, life total, and attack strength as your opponent's leader. So basically, you are copying your opponent's chosen leader. This one here, heroes in this unit have +5 attack strength if they have taken damage during this wave, and that will make sense in a bit. Of course, the panda. After the first round of play, when you recruit a hero, that hero may immediately make an attack as a free action. So normally, when you play a hero, you can't attack at the same time. So this is pretty good. And Luke Van Gogh says, you have 3 actions per wave instead of the normal 2. Now that's a little bit OP. But we'll go with the panda just because, if you know anything about me, I like pandas. So you pick your leader and you stick them out in the middle. As so, and you do not discard whatever you've got, you keep those. Those are your potential heroes. So normally these are going to be secret from your opponent. I'm just going to leave those face up. We're going to do the same thing for the penguin player. Let me just quickly go through these. Oh look, we actually drew the penguin. So just I don't even know what it says. I'm just going to play the penguin just so we can get on with it, because I don't want this video to be too long. And of course, penguin keeps, I'm going to say her because she's pink. Keeps her her cards out. So now we flip them back over, and there are the heroes, and we've got here the panda heroes as well, so it's the same. So let's just read this before we get on with it. And it says, after the first round of play, when you recruit a hero, that hero may immediately make an attack as a free action. So basically we're playing the exact same hero, which we can't do. So actually I'm gonna, normally you would basically draw more cards and do that, but yeah, as a rule of the game, you can't play the same hero. So let's go with Tatsunomi Noak, and it says playing an order is a free action for you. So there you go. And an order, actually we'll go over that. So you have to imagine that normally you would be playing head to head, so facing each other, right? And just for the purposes of the video, I'm going to do it side by side, but you can imagine that they're facing, so the leftmost column here is going to match up with the rightmost column here, just so you can figure it out. But it doesn't really matter because you're not limited in that way. So when you're done playing, you're actually going to have 9 cards in total. So they surround your leader, your chosen leader. So on your turn, you get 2 actions, unless, of course, you know, a card gives you free actions or whatever. They can be recruit, which allows you to play a hero from your hand into your current wave. You can't play it into another wave, right? Is that right? Yes, into your current wave. So before I get that is, you know, the front. You have your front, which is called the Vanguard wave. You have two blocks next to each next to your leader, which is your flank wave, and then of course you have your rear rear wave, which I can't even remember what it's called officially, but we'll just call it the rear guard. Now we'll go over let's go over the other actions that you can take. You can attack with a unit that's on the table. So I don't know if this will come up, but here this Juto here, this panda, has a strength of 1, and it's a melee attack, which I will explain. And of course it's got 20 life, because that's just what it is. And the point of the game is, of course, to kill these leaders off the board. So the other actions are order, that basically allows you to play one of your cards and use the order box, which I will explain. And or you can draw a card from your deck, or you can move one of your guys to any empty space, should there be an empty space. And the only rule is on the first turn you cannot attack. So what we'll do is let's take a look at one of these cards here. Now this isn't where I'm going to be playing it because we play from the first wave, which is the vanguard, then flank, then back. So going over here, which I'm going to try and get this in focus, which sucks. I'm going to switch hands here. You'll notice that each card has these 4 boxes here, right? So what makes this game really interesting is the power of the hero that you play, in this case the scientist, is going to be different depending on where you play him. So if I played this guy in this wave into the vanguard, for example, let's just put him in front. Yeah, let's put him in front. And if you do that, he gets an attack, and if he attacks, basically if you use one of your turns to attack with this guy now that he's played in the front, your opponent will lose an action. Now if I go over here and I do an attack, I actually do the attack for 2 strength, but I also get to draw 2 cards. I think that's the way it is. I actually, yeah, it is. That's the way it is. I'm getting a little confused because we've only played it a few times, and I mean like once or twice. And in the back, of course, the power here, the blue box, is another hero in this unit makes a melee attack, which is very good. So this is a really good support guy because you get a free attack. Now this final box, as I stated before, that one of your turns is an action, so you actually have all these cards in your hand. If you don't want to actually have the unit fielded, as one of your actions you can play him, discard him, and you get to use this purple box, and that is called the order box. So make 3 extra actions during this wave, which is really cool. You can actually do quite a bit. So for the purpose of this video, because I'm not going to do a full playthrough, for example, let's play this as one of my first actions. So I'm going to take 3 actions, even though he's a really good support guy. I'm going to discard, and I'm actually going to just be a dick, and I'm going to play all my characters, right, as 3 actions. Oh, I actually get 4 actions, right, because I get 2. So that was the free 3, and I get to draw. So I got 1 card. Okay, so my camera ran out of battery in the middle of talking, so I apologize for that. But in the interest of time, I've just filled out the playstyle. Now, you have to keep in mind it would never actually go this cleanly because people are going to be soaking up damage as you're playing cards. But it might get to a point where everyone is full complement, no damage, but it's very unlikely. But in this case, I just use the hands, so just assume that I have hands and I could be playing orders or I could be doing all other things. However, we'll go over the attack rules because they're a little bit interesting. So there's 2 types of attack. There's melee and range. So melee, of course, is basically hand-to-hand combat if you are familiar with any games. And I figure if Pixel Tactics has any interest to you, it's probably because you played games and you know what that term means. But basically, every card has its own strength. So this guy here has 3 strength. Sorry, it's not very... Yeah, it's a very bad camera. It's got 3 strength, 5 defense. Right? So, again, I put out the turn marker. So, again, it goes in waves, right? So you can only do orders for these guys in this wave, for example, or take actions. So, if I were to attack with this guy, for example, I can hit any one of these columns. Now again, you got to remember that these would normally be facing each other, but you can actually pick any column you want. So being that he's melee, he can only hit the front guy of each column. So for example, if that guy was to attack, he can only hit these 3, or if that was blank, for example, he would be able to hit these 3. Or, let's say we'll get 2 of those. Let's say they're not in there. Then his available targets are these 3. That kind of thing. You get it. And it doesn't really matter. You just choose your target. So he does 3 damage. Now, most of these guys do not have very low health, right? So this one way back here is a mage. But it's going to be hard for my guy to hit him. Because this guy only has 3 defense, but he's way in the back and he's protected by the leader and all this kind of stuff. So one other thing is that you can only attack melee if you are the front piece in your own column. So just as you can only hit the front of your enemy's column, you can only use the front of your enemy's column. So let's say, for example, we're on the second wave, in the flank wave, and I wanted to attack with this guy. I can't actually do it because he's not a ranged attacker. Or is he? No, he's ranged from behind. So if I were to play him in the rear, he would be ranged. It just says that in the box. So for the purposes of this guy being where he is, he's melee. But if I have this guy sitting in front of him, he can't do a melee attack. So you're going to want to do different kinds of things. Now, remember, actually I don't know if that was in the previous video or if I was still talking when the camera ran out. This guy's flanking power gives these two guys ranged attacks. So it says Forerunner and Supporter, so those terms just means Forerunner is whoever's in front, Supporter is whoever's in back. And so if that's the case, this guy, now that he is ranged, he can attack anybody he wants, right? So it doesn't matter anymore that I have to go to the front, because assuming that he's firing an arrow or throwing a sword across the battlefield. But now I'm not limited to the guys in front. I can hit anybody I want, except when a guy has intercept. Now this guy's not in the right row, but if he was in the front, for example, so let's just put him in the front, and when he's in the front, he's got an intercept ability. So that's not when he's attacking, that's a passive ability. So that means anybody who's using a ranged attack, he's going to intercept and soak up that damage. So you can't fire over him in the column, right? I could still hit this guy because this guy's not an intercept or anything like that. But in the case of having the intercept, he's the nearest, he's the only target that you can go. So that's your limitation with those two types of attacks. Now essentially you're going to be going over and over a battle. Like basically you start here, take your two actions, whatever they may be. You can play a card, draw a card, attack with one of your guys, use one of their abilities if you can. You'll see, like, for example, this guy here has an attack ability. So instead of doing a melee attack for 2, if I use this attack ability, I can return a hero that's in melee to its owner's hand. What that means is that anybody in the front row that is a melee fighter, I believe that's what it is, and this guy, because he's melee and he's in the very front, so I mean, same thing if this guy was melee. Basically, if two melee guys are facing each other, they are in melee. So for example, if I wanted to use this ability for one of my attacks, it would basically send this guy not to the discard pile, but to his owner's hand, and he can play him again. Now, not basically going to go through a whole playthrough because the game plays in about a half hour, 15 minutes, depending on how familiar you are with the game, and clearly I'm not entirely familiar with it, but enough to actually do this kind of video. Now, when you die, you actually don't, or when heroes die, they don't actually get wiped off the board right away. So what happens is they actually become corpses. And corpses can't do anything, but they do take up a space. Now, one of the actions that I didn't go over is that you can clear a corpse as one of your turns. So, or one of your actions, I should say. So, for example, if I had a guy sitting in reserve in my hand, I would have to forego an attack action, for example, if I wanted to play him now, and I'd have to clear this guy as a corpse into a discard pile here, and then I could play that as my second action. But of course, I would have to be on that row, in that wave. So turn keeps going back and forth, back and forth. Now here's the thing. In this case, the panda player doesn't always go first. So you play the first wave, take 2 actions. This person takes 2 actions, and then once you actually take both people take both actions, then you resolve damage. Let's go the other way around. Let's say I did a bunch of tank damage on one of these guys, and let's say we'll go with him because he's only got 4 defense. So over here, I've got these 2. Added up takes we'll do this one. Added up, these 2 take 5. So let's say I attack the gunner, We've done 5 damage. He's only got 4 defense. When it comes over to the second player's turn, he can still use this guy. Damage isn't actually doled out until the end of that wave. So part of your tactical thinking is that even though you could do lethal damage, that guy is still going to be able to take his turn if he's the second player. Now here's the thing. Once you go through all of these waves and you're done, you switch, right? So then you're back into the first wave, and now this guy gets to go first, this guy goes second, and you keep going and going and going until one of you beats the leader. Once you're done, the leaders go to the winners. Let's just, for the sake of it, say the Panda won, and they just get held over there as trophies. Now, in the best of, you can play this in as a best of 3 or a best of 5, or if you're crazy, a best of whatever you want. But basically, it's up. These count as trophies, so you can actually leave them down. Basically, in a, say like a best of 3, it's the first person to get 3 trophies, which means you have to win 2 out of 3. That's just one of those things if you want to do it. Otherwise, you can just take these out. So once you actually play your first round, second round, or whatever, and the leaders die, you don't get to use them again. They're done, right? So even the one that you use to beat that round, you don't get to play them again. Your deck will shrink after each round. But that's pretty much the way the game works. It's very, very cool. Very it's very deep for a 50 card game, 25 and 25, and of course you can expand that with the sequels. And again, Pixel Tactics 3 is coming out, so I guess if it's going to be the same format, you're going to have a total of 75 cards to go with lots of different options. Your first time playing, and of course I don't know these cards like the back of my hand, so there's always going to be these things to learn, but it's a lot of fun, lots of great art, and I love the idea of the double-sided card. It's just cool. And of course, the cards themselves, very nice card stock, very much reminding me of bicycle cards or Fantasy Flight cards if you play other board games. But yes, that's Pixel Tactics from Level 99 Games. You can get it as part of the minigame library, or you can order it from their site because it's very hard to find the standalone. Alternatively, you could just go with this, and because I'm able to find this everywhere, and it's a standalone, you don't have to have 1 and 2, you just miss out on some of the older characters. And this is, of course, all set in the Indians universe, which they are really hyping up in all of their games, so you might get sucked in that way, but it's a lot of fun, and go give it a shot. So that's Pixel Tactics. That is my contribution for International Board Game Day, since I couldn't get anybody to come over and play. Go give it a shot, and also, find other things to play, especially if you get the minigame library. There's lots of great games for 2 players, as well as, 3 to 4 players as well, so it's actually a pretty good deal, but you can always get this, and I think it goes anywhere between 12 to 15 bucks. So that's Pixel Tactics. Thanks for joining me on this one, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers!